Oh my god, hi. I'm gonna say this so nicely. We're raw dogging it today with the mic. I am having the biggest technical difficulties. I bought like two microphones and neither of them work. I have a microphone attached to the camera, but like it was driving me clinically insane. We are doing like just the camera's microphone today, which I did in my Valentine's video. So if you like that audio, stick around. If you hated it, fuck, I'm so sorry. I'm trying really hard. If you have any camera recs that work with a Bluetooth or any kind of reasonable microphone, please let me know. Thanks. Anyways, it's Black History Month. It is like the last day almost, which is so sad. We read some really amazing books. Like truly the lowest rated book this month was a 3-star. Before we dive in to the books that I read for this wonderful month, let's talk some Black history for Black History Month. Black History Month started, like most of the months do, as just a week in February in 1926. So this year was actually the centennial celebration of Black History Celebration, which means it's been 100 years of Black history. It was founded by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. They announced that the second week of February would be, they called it Negro History Week, and they wanted to do it in February specifically, which is where I was wrong about some things. I said like, it sucks, it's the shortest month of the year, like that was on purpose because of racism, but it was intentionally February because it coincided with Abraham Lincoln's birthday and Frederick Douglass's birthday on February 12th and 14th, respectively. So the intention was to commemorate and celebrate Black history with those two who kind of like pioneered a lot of rights and two people who have been celebrated by the Black community since the 19th century. So it was just a week for, oh my God, let me do math, about 50 years. In 1969, Kent State University proposed extending it into a whole month, and then they celebrated it from like the beginning of the year to the end of February the following year. So in 1970 is when it really got started as like more of a month-long celebration, which in this case it was actually, they celebrated it for about 2 months. It grew for like a couple of years until 1976. It kind of nationally became known as Black History Month. President Gerald Ford recognized Black History Month in 1976 during the celebration of the United States bicentennial. So that was our 200-year anniversary. And he urged American citizens to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. Which is so important and so beautiful to recognize. It's crazy to me to think that people can look at American history as such a whitewashed thing when like America was and always has been founded and grown and cultivated and survived and thrived through people of color. It has never been a white accomplishment for the success of America. Obviously, the beginnings of the colonization being so awful, but like the land was here and cultivated and growing and beautiful because of indigenous peoples. And then to colonize it and then to bring in more people of color to kidnap and genocide them to continue the growth of the beauty of the land is crazy to me that we can think of it as like a white accomplishment when white people literally just killed people, like, and that was our contribution to everything is not good. And then like with all of that kind of oppression throughout all of history, to see people of color still thriving and like to see women and especially Black women like get us to the moon, to see like all of the accomplishments people of color have made and the inventions that they've made. And obviously their worth is not just in their contributions to society, but that is such a vital part of their history and our society's history that it has to be acknowledged. You can't go a day without using an invention created by a person of color. Lida D. Newman is a Black woman who invented the hairbrush. I brush my hair every day. Alice Parker, a Black woman who invented central heating, an extremely necessary part of life, especially in the Midwest. You would die without it. Marie Van Brittan Brown invented home security systems. Dr. Shirley Jackson invented caller ID. Mary Kenner invented sanitary pads. Can you imagine going through life without a menstrual pad, like a modern day menstrual pad? Impossible. Not even to mention all the contributions to like art and history and music that have been made by people of color, like rock and roll, music would not be even half as good without the foundations being laid by people of color. To celebrate Black History Month is to celebrate American history. And that is something that should be celebrated all year long. And this month, just with a special emphasis on it. So here are the books that I read to celebrate American Black history. Since Black History Month coincided with Valentine's Day, I wanted to spend the first half of the month reading romance novels. So my first pick was All About Love by Bell Hooks, which I thought was a fitting first pick. And I always like to start my monthly months with a nonfiction. This is like 13 chapters, and it talks about all different kinds of love and like where it comes from like the language that we use to our childhood experiences to society and cultural like norms and expectations around love. And then like it did dip into divine love, and it did have some Christian overtones. Not for me, maybe for ye. And some of this was like gut punching. Like it was so good. And this was written in like the early 2000s, 2001. And this is still so culturally relevant and prevalent now, 25 years later. That's crazy to me. Bell Hooks says that the word love is most often defined as a noun, yet we would all love better if we used it as a verb. She talks about how like society is not bred to cultivate like a real love, but just a like manufactured and especially romantically almost a sexual kind of love. A true genuine love is so like it just doesn't exist. It's like she talks about how like men are conditioned to be against who they are to be loved, and then women are conditioned to be against who they are to be loved, and the two conditions work in opposition of each other when like your natural state would coincide with your partner's natural state, but like society is pushing us to be things and people that we are not, to experience a kind of love that isn't really a kind of love. I gave it 4 stars because of the religious overtones that hit in the second half. I do wish it had stayed centered on culture and less on divinity. Not everyone is religious, so like a divine kind of love can come from yourself and not like a divine being. In my opinion, I am not world famous, renowned, philosophical author, philanthropist, feminist, impeccable, intelligent, beyond compare human being of Bell Hooks. I'm just a bitch on the internet. Next up was an anthology, a collection of short stories called Love in Color. How cute is this book? By Bolu Babalola. Look at it. It's so tiny. Oh my god, the sun is really gleaming off this thing. So I got it from the library book sale, so it does have the like the shiny plastic cover. I didn't steal it, okay? I promise. I paid money for it. I paid a whole $1. Remember when I said that I was celebrating American history? The author of this book is not American. So, anyways, it is almost a retelling of different kinds of goddesses in history and like in mythology. Like the full title is Love in Color: Mythical Tales from Around the World Retold. It's just a bunch of short stories, and it's like the main characters are goddesses mostly from around the world, and then getting retold sometimes in a modern context and sometimes in a like more fantasy kind of element to them. I loved all of them mostly. Like the first half of the book was really, really good. At like the very end, the author, she just like throws in her own like short stories that she made up, not about like goddesses or goddess retelling or anything. Those were mostly good. I really didn't like the last one, and I don't remember why because I blocked it out of my mind. Some of these were really beautiful and really good and just like a cute little bite of a short story, and it celebrated all different kinds of love. I gave it a 4.5 actually. So I did really like almost all of them, and they could have been gayer. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion on everything. I think everything can be gayer, but overall pretty good. My next book is not strictly like a romance, but I did need an audiobook to listen to. We got You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, and it did have some romance in it, but mostly it was about a young girl, Liz Lighty, which was very confusing to listen to on the audiobook, where she's like one of the only people of color in her very small town in Indiana, and then to just hear someone call her Lighty, completely out of context, not knowing that was her last name, was just like, wow! But then, like, it dawned on me eventually that that was her last name. Anyways, I digress. So Liz she just like has spent her whole life trying to make herself as small and palatable as possible, especially being someone that stands out so much in her small town where like it's not okay to be poor and black and tall and a woman and take up space. She has just tried to make herself as much of like a wallflower as possible. And she is really passionate about music, and she really wants to attend this college, the same musical college that her mother went to. And her mother passed away when she was younger. Her mother's like dying wish was for Liz to go to this college. Like the second chapter of the book, you find out she did not get the scholarship she needed to go. And she doesn't want her grandparents to like refinance their house or like sell it to take her to college because that was the last place her mom ever lived. She has to figure out a way to get herself to college and to pay for it. Some cuckoo bananas idea that her little brother comes up with is running for prom queen, because in this very small town, football is not king, prom queen and king is. Like, that is the thing that every person in the small town is like really passionate about. That's the thing that everybody like kind of peaked on and then they still like really care about as an adult. And so the prom king and queen get a scholarship, and that would be the money that she needs to go to this college. So she starts campaigning for prom queen. She is campaigning and her friends are trying to help her, and there's friend drama going on, and there's another girl campaigning that she like kind of has a little crush on. This was very cute and fun and sweet, and I think I would have liked it a lot better if I had read it myself. I did not care for the audiobook reader, and that might have been because I was trying to listen to it slower, because I have a tendency to overconsume at a rapid pace. So that's my only complaint. Otherwise, 5 stars. Loved it. It was super cute, and I think a great young adult read. And gay. Next up, Digging Up Love by Chandra Bloomberg. This one has 2 main characters, Alicia Blake and Quentin Harris. Alicia is a baker in her small town in Illinois. She loves to make cookies and all kinds of desserts. Her grandparents own a barbecue restaurant, and they really want her to kind of be the one in charge of it. Also, her mother died. A lot of dead moms here. Her dad, like, abandoned her completely. So her grandparents, her dad's parents, took care of her and her sister. She really wants to open up a bakery in Chicago, but she feels obligated to stay home and take care of her grandparents who have like given her and her sister everything. And her grandparents are digging a pool in their backyard, and they dig up a dinosaur bone. So they call the University of Chicago, and Quentin Harris is sent out to investigate this alleged dinosaur bone found in Illinois. Huge, big find of his career, biggest find of his whole life. So he goes out there to dig up the dinosaur bone, and who falls into the big pit? Alicia. They start texting, and sparks are flying. It was cute. Somebody said it was a slow burn. It wasn't, okay? It was slow paced. It was not a slow burn. They were immediately in love. Not a slow burn. Slow paced. I was like 115 pages in. I was like, all they're doing is texting. Like, that's all that's happening. There's a dinosaur in the backyard, people. All we're doing is texting and sending dinosaur memes. That was my complaint, that it was very slow. Also, just the complete and utter lack of communication was insufferable. These are adults, and they communicate not at all. Not even like toddlers. Well, a little bit like toddlers, actually. Because sometimes they'll say something smart and profound and like an adult, and then the other one will just storm off. And then text them later and be like, I'm sorry. And then they never tell each other actual, real, true feelings. Drive me crazy. I wish the communication was better. It was not even a miscommunication trope if the whole book was a miscommunication. But they did dig up some love. In a complete tonal shift, the next book I read was Black Klansman by Ron Stallworth. This book is about a black police officer in the 1970s who infiltrated the KKK. Crazy concept, actually. He was the first black detective in Colorado Springs history. One day he came across an ad in the paper asking for those interested in joining the Ku Klux Klan. He responded with interest, using his real name, thinking he'd just get a little brochure. And they called him. They were so impressed with his fake application that they were like, yeah, come be a Klansman. And he was like, okay. So he found a body double, a white undercover police officer, and he was the one attending the actual in-person meetings, and Ron was the one on the phone talking to the leaders of the Ku Klux Klan. It's so funny that the Klan was stupid enough to let this happen, and it's also so fucking sad to see how they are still so prevalent today. This happened in the 70s and it's 2026 and we're still worried about these pointy white hoods that have suddenly turned into a little red hat. It was crazy. I listened to the audiobook read by Ron Stallworth himself, which you can tell he is not a professional storyteller by any means. So it was kind of like listening to a story from your grandpa. It was nice to like listen to the actual author talk about his experience with it. And like you could tell some parts he was like actually getting really emotional about. And there were some parts that he like was just having fun with. Like some of it was a little funny. Like it was a little funny. And he's talking to, what's his fuck ass name? David Duke, the like leader of the clan, talking to him on the phone. And Ron's like, Dave, have you ever like considered that maybe like you like that like a black person has infiltrated the clan? And Dave's like, oh no, I can tell what they sound. I know what a black person sounds like on the phone. I can always tell. They say their A's differently, or they say like their certain words differently. And Ron is like, oh, like how do they say it? And Dave, he says it. From there on out, every time they have a conversation, Ron says that specific catchphrase as a black man. Like he uses the emphasis, the kind of like phonetic language that Dave associated with black people, and Dave never said anything to him about it. It was so fucking funny. Oh my god. Also, at one point, he talks about like he took a picture with Dave and the leader of the Colorado Springs organization. So he like made his friend who was pretending to be him take a Polaroid of him with Dave and the other guy, and he said he'd lost it, and that's the saddest fucking thing I've ever heard. In the like 2 years that Ron was a Klansman, he like moved up the ranks in Colorado Springs Clans Association. So like at a certain point they wanted Ron to become the new leader of the Klansmen in Colorado Springs, and Ron is now faced with the ethical dilemma of like, I can't condone or encourage or like plan cross burnings or any kind of act of terrorism, and that will completely blow my cover if I'm leading the clan and I'm not doing any of the clan stuff. And then at the very end of the book, he is like talking to his supervisor and he's like, okay, I think like I have an opportunity to take this even further and go even higher in the ranks and like keep going with this. I just like asking his supervisor, like, can we do this? And then his supervisor took it to another supervisor and was like, you need to actually shut it down, like scrap the whole thing and burn every file that had anything to do with this at all. What? That's kind of how the book ends. Is like he has to completely erase any part of Colorado Springs Police Department's history and ties with the Klan. He is told to destroy the evidence that it happened, and the evidence kind of disappeared from the police department and kind of somehow ended up in his possession. Crazy, don't know how that happened. I gave it 4 stars. It was funny, and it would be a lot funnier if it wasn't still happening today. I listened to another audiobook, Cinderella is Dead, by Kaylin Barron. So this is set like 200 years after Cinderella found her prince. And this entire town is just completely obsessed with the tale of Cinderella. Like it is the bones of the town and of society. And like the royals are all like still super obsessed with it. And like their king is like a misogynistic piece of shit. And he like makes every girl from at like 16 years old attend a ball like Cinderella and dress up and be presented, and then men of any age can come in and lay claim to them like property, and the women have no rights and everything that they have belongs to their husbands. And they all have to know and have memorized the tale of Cinderella. People, like families, go into debt to get their daughters a match. And the men are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to their wives. They can beat the shit out of their wife. And they're like, she's your property. Our main character, Sophia, would rather marry her best friend, Aaron, and not a man. Who can blame her? So obviously women can't be gay, because how could you belong to a man if you have a wife as a woman? You don't have rights. She is trying to like come up with a plan to escape the ball and this town and leave with her BFF slash lover, Aaron. But Aaron is like, no, we have to submit. We can't do this anymore. We have to be good wives, because she's scared as shitless of this life and this society because it's crazy. Sophia's parents, who like know about Aaron and all that and are just kind of like, yeah, just cut it out, like quit. They find her a match. Could he be an ally? Part of the community? Could they arrange a lavender marriage? Could everything go wrong at the Cinderella ball and she has to run away and she meets a descendant of Cinderella's stepsister and she has to go uncover the truth of what happened to Cinderella and the history of it, and everything that she knows about this tale is a lie? She could. Wouldn't that be a crazy Cookie Bananas thing to happen? Wouldn't that be so crazy? That would make for a really interesting and good and compelling book. Anyways, I gave this book, let's see, 4 stars. Nope, that's the other book. I also probably gave this one 4 stars, though. 4 stars! To me, the writing felt a little middle grade. Like, I could tell what was happening. I'm also 30 and have read 700 books. That's not an exaggeration. Is it a little predictable to me, a 30-year-old who's read a lot of books? Yeah, but would a middle schooler eat this shit up and maybe learn some feminism? Probably. I want to say this is Kaylin's first book. I also love to lie. It is her first book. I read This Poison Heart and then its sequel, This Wicked Fate. Loved those. And then I got Sleep Like Death, another retelling, a Snow White retelling. I was like, okay, Cinderella is Dead is definitely on my radar. So what better time than Black History Month to talk about the new queen of retellings, Kaylin Bayron. If you've never read a book by her, what the fuck are you doing? Go pick up a book by her. Preferably This Poison Heart. That was a, like, my light died. Spooky. This is your sign to go read that book. Okay. Our third lighting situation of the day. My ring light was not built, apparently, to withstand the amount of yapping that I can do. The final books I read for Black History Month is a series that I have been wanting to finish since I read the first one in like 2020. And that is the Deathless series by Namina Forna. So the first one, the Gilded Ones, the Merciless Ones, and the Eternal Ones. And they make like a little, they're all looking at each other. How cute! It's triplets. I can only really talk about the first one. I can't talk about the other two because that's spoilers, number 1. Number 2, I'm not done with the third one. It was also like a little trippy to read this alongside of like Cinderella is Dead because it had a lot of the same tone and like themes of like women not having rights. Huh, interesting, wonder where that came from. So in this society, girls are tested at like 15, 16 for their purity. Their blood is tested. If it runs red, they're pure, and they get to wear a mask for the rest of their life and submit to men. And if their blood runs gold, they get to die. What choices these women have? Before your purity test, the women have to like spend like their years not ever getting a scrape or a cut to like prematurely determine if they're pure or not. I'm fine. Having gold blood means, they call it like cursed blood. It means that you're part of this group of women that are descendants from the old goddesses, which they referred to as demons. And the demons have been trapped in gold for like centuries. Their descendants, anyone whose blood runs gold, they're like super strong and fast. They can heal really quickly, and it's like almost impossible to kill them. That's why they're called deathless. And the only way to really kill them is poison, beheading, and burning were like the top 3, I think. Fuck. Was it burning? It's another B word. I don't know. A horrific death, basically. And so Decca, our main character, she is going to her purity test, and before she can get tested, for her and all of her friends, all one of them, and all the other girls in the village can get tested, they get attacked by these monsters called Death Shriekers. And the Death Shriekers, I'm picturing like a gargoyle-esque kind of thing, where it's like a big, like tall, like kind of like how dinosaurs are shrink-wrapped. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of like physique. And this is so niche and specific. There's a type of fruit called bat fruit, and it's shaped kind of like a bat. And that's what I'm picturing for their heads. And they have wings. That's how I picture them in my tiny little pea brain. So the Death Shriekers come attack. Everybody hates them, and they're all really scared of the Death Shriekers. So the Death Shriekers come and attack. And Decca freaks the fuck out, and she screams at the Death Shriekers to like GTFO. And then they do. They listen to her. And then her eyes get really freaky and they're like, kill her. And then the boy that was just flirting with her stabbed her in the gut and tried to kill her. But obviously her blood ran gold, so she had one of her fake deaths. And then she falls into what's called a gilded sleep. And then she like is resurrected almost. She's like made new. The only way to know for sure that one of the gilded ones is dead is if their blood runs blue. That's like their final death. And so, obviously she doesn't die, despite the many efforts of the leaders of her village. They put her through like every kind of death they can think of. All the ways you're supposed to be able to kill a deathless don't work on her. The emperor gets like word of her and sends someone to go fetch her. So she gets sent to like a military camp where she's with all of these other deathless girls. They are the new soldiers for the emperor because they are stronger and faster and almost immortal. She's there at this camp with her new friends that are all like her, and they get told if they put 20 years of service in, then their blood will be made pure and they can go live out the rest of their days wearing a mask and being subservient to men. What a joy! And that's really all I can say before I start getting into spoiler territory. That is the Deathless series. I gave like 5 stars. I did give 5 stars to the first one. It's like a 4.99 just because I don't really care for the like insta-lovey situation. The second one got 4 stars. It was just like a little confusing. Like a lot was happening. Didn't totally make a lot of sense. This one, not doing great so far. I'm like 100 pages in, so I'm like 25% of the way in. And they like, every chapter kind of ends with like, okay, let's go do this thing. It's the same thing every time. Like they still haven't done the thing that they said they were going to do 40 pages ago. Do I still like them? Yeah, I do. Yeah. And if anything happens to Ixa, I'm burning them all to the ground. I don't care. I will burn them. I did have a dozen other books on my shelves that I could have read for Black History Month, but unfortunately it is the shortest month, so I did what I could. I will cap out at 9 books for Black History Month, which is pretty impressive. Like, that's a lot, so. Oh no, I'll have to read these wonderful books by talented Black authors all year long. Oh no, what's a girl to do? Oh well. So, that's what I have for Black History Month. I had a lot of fun, and I can't wait for next year. And I can't even wait for next month. Next month being Women's History Month, I have, shocker, another book by a Black author. The Risk It Takes to Bloom. This is our nonfiction pick. You're reading it with me. For Women's History Month, we're doing a little short story anthology, The Peach Pit. 16 stories of unsavory women, my favorite type. Honey Girl. I thrifted all of these too. I did not go to Target. These are our books. I thought that this was a good representation of womanhood, coming into your own as a woman. Trans women especially always remind me that womanhood is something worth fighting for. It's something worth having and doing and being, and worth fighting for and fighting tooth and nail for womanhood and femininity. I love women's wrongs, so I really am looking forward to celebrating women's wrongs. And then Honey Girl, like the beginning of it talked about like a woman who is like super type A and like has everything planned out, and then she wakes up like married to a stranger, and I'm like, that's such a girly pop thing to do. So that's our book picks for next month for Women's History Month. Every book on my bookshelf is a book for Women's History Month because they're all written by women. If you need book recs, you can go to my Goodreads. I have tags of Black History Month, all the books I didn't read, plus all the ones I did, and then another tag for Women's History Month, but that's also pretty much just every book in my TBR pile. Thank you guys so much for coming on this journey with me. I'm sure I yapped your ear off. I had a wonderful time celebrating Black history, Black futures, Black excellence. I can't wait to do it again. See you next time!